summarizes the results of the ascertainment meeting and has a incredibly detailed account of what WinCam has been doing over the last 5 to 10 years. You know, they have really gone from a small operation at the high school. When the renovations are coming at the high school, they had to move off campus, and so they took out a facility on Swanton Street. They have since expanded that. It is a magnificent facility. If the select board hasn't visited it, I encourage you to do so. They have a very nice meeting room there, which they have made available to the town as part of the inventory of meeting rooms available for town meetings. And indeed, the Cable Advisory Committee has held 1 or 2 meetings there because the town hall was full. That said, they always had a desire to get back into the high school, and now they're going back into the high school. So we're now finishing up with not 1, but 2 WinCam facilities to serve the town. And I can only say that WinCam has gone from strength to strength over the last 10 years. So the Cable Advisory Committee did review the documents that Lisa forwarded to you and recommend them to you. I don't know whether the board has had time to review the documents, but we would like your approval to send them out to Comcast tomorrow. With that, I'll pause. Bill, I don't know if you want to add anything, and I remind you you're on mute. And if Bill doesn't want to have anything to say to add, then I'll take questions from the board.
All set. Thank you. Well done, Ashley. All set. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the select board?
I just wanted to start by thanking Ashley and also the Superstar Cable Advisory Committee and all their hard work. Their backgrounds are so impressive in this area. And it's been such a pleasure to be a liaison to that committee in the last few months. Also, I did want to echo what Ashley was saying about the WinCam facilities with their enlargement. It's really super impressive. And obviously it's an important resource for the town, and everyone takes such pride in it. And so certainly we could talk for nights probably about all the dynamics going on that Ashley pointed out, including in this industry. There's also some interesting aspects regarding possible pending federal legislation. But the short of it is that what's in front of us are these agreements that Ashley's mentioned. So I'll let Bill take over from here.
I would like to thank Jackie for her very active participation. Before her, Mariano was very engaged with the committee, and Jackie has fully taken up the role that Mariano previously played. And from the school committee, Karen has been very engaged with us, and we are most appreciative for the contact we have with the 2 senior boards in town.
Yeah, thank you. So this is one of those interesting committees. I believe it's the only committee that goes dormant for almost a decade. And then like cicada comes back from underground. I believe I am taking that saying from Mr. Stevens here. So Ashley, forgive me if I don't if it doesn't sound as funny when I say it. But you know, everybody in the Cable Advisory Committee does so much work, and I think a lot of people in town don't realize that almost all of the funding for WinCam comes from these agreements, these franchise fee agreements that we have with Verizon and Comcast. And WinCam provides an incredible service to the residents of the town. The programming is fantastic. The transparency of government wouldn't be what it is without WinCam. So it's very important. And of course, we know that technology changes, and the FCC is certainly not at this point friendly to local community broadcast or to open government or just to democracy in general at this point. We will do what we can to support WinCam.
Just one highlight I forgot to mention, both renewal licenses will include one HD channel for WinCam. The last licenses, 2006, 2010, they had 2 channels with the possibility to expand. They met the criteria to expand and have added a 3rd channel on both WinCam, on Verizon and Comcast, and both of the renewal licenses will now get them into the high definition part of the channel lineup as well.
Well, I could just say this, which we all know, that WinCam is a tremendous community asset, and they really have. It is remarkable how much they've grown and changed over these years, and just very seriously upgraded their operation and really have woven themselves into the fabric of the community with their new facility. And reading what they envision doing, sort of reinventing and reinvigorating their activities at the high school would be a great opportunity for the students and the staff there. So yeah, this is very important to the town.
One of the things that really came out in the renewal process, the ascertainment process, that impressed me so much was the number of students at the high school who have gone on to pursue careers in media, TV, film, who got their start through taking courses and interning with WinCam. That is just a remarkable contribution. That's the only comment I made to Dave when I read his document that you've been sent, was that I encouraged him to add that element as another of their contributions to the town in future iterations of that document.
Great, thank you again, Ashley and Bill and everyone involved, and Jackie for your service, and Mariano too, since this has started, been going for a couple years now. Ashley, right now you need a singularly approval for the request for response for submission.
Yes, please. Yep,
okay,
please.
I'll take a motion for approval by the select board of a request for response for submission to Comcast.
So I move that we approve the request for response directed to Comcast as presented.
Second.
All in favor? I'll take a roll call vote. To Mariano.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Susan.
Yes.
And yes, for me, it's unanimous, 4-0. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And please feel free to stay on, but I appreciate that you might want to be doing something else this evening. So it was great. It was great to see you in the even in a remote session. So thanks again.
Thank you, and anticipate us being before you at least twice more before the middle of September. And we look forward to bringing finished licenses back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And before we get into the next part of our agenda, just wanted to make the announcement that our next regularly scheduled meetings will be Monday, May 4th and Monday, May 18th. We are also, for the time being, scheduling every Thursday morning at 8:30 meetings in relation to the COVID response in the state of emergency for items that we need to handle between our meetings. I think we can start. Lisa, is there anything else that we wanted to jump on? I see Ms. Mann is here on request from TWK. Maybe
yeah, we should just move forward with everything that has a guest right now.
Yep. So, and I do have a couple questions. I know that DWK is looking to change their doing business as designation to the spot. If Ms. Mann could speak a little bit to that, I have a couple questions.
Sure. Good evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of TWK. We're just seeking to rebrand the restaurant to be more of a neighborhood style, to upgrade the menu or change the menu, and that's really it. And we do have another restaurant called The Spot in Georgetown, which is a small neighborhood restaurant that's very successful. It has a fairly diverse menu, and we're hoping that that would succeed in Winchester as well.
I just wanted to note that before we get into the point of this, but that we, on behalf of the, I think I speak for the board, that we really appreciate your commitment and investment in the town.
Thank you. My client is definitely committed to making this restaurant work.
Right, I was going to ask you, I'm assuming you're an attorney on behalf of your client, but if you...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I am. And I appeared so many times. It's putting me off because I can't see myself, but I can continue to see my name. So I'm like, oh, this is weird. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, if you could just let your client know that as well. Thank you.
I most certainly will. I appreciate that very much.
Ms. Mann, I did have a couple inquiries about this from other restaurant establishments in Winchester about conversations that they had had in the past when TWK was opening, and about the concept and being willing to at least agree that similar concepts would would not be engaged in on the property. And so I do have a concern about that without any sort of anything in front of me, any sort of agreement or anything. I did get a couple phone calls more at the last minute just prior to our meeting about that.
I don't even know what that is. I've never seen such an agreement, and I've never partaken in one. I mean, I honestly don't know what that's about. I mean, this is simply doing business as change. There's no stylistic impediment to a change in menu. But this most certainly, in my opinion, isn't going to be similar to any of the other restaurants I know that are on that street. That's what I kind of think of. It's a very independent concept that they've developed over time.
So is the menu and concept going to stay exactly the same? It's just a name change?
No, it is definitely going to change. It's going to be, they'll have sushi, still, they'll have burgers. They have a kind of a diverse menu, but it won't be the same exact menu style it is now. Now it's more of a full sit down restaurant, a little bit more of an elevated brand, and they think it needs to be more of a neighborhood restaurant where people come in to collect, see people, talk, and gather. So I mean, their menus are always pretty fluid. That really pretty fluid menus, but it will have sushi, and that's what it has now too.
It does seem that there are similar concepts in Winchester to what you're describing, and without knowing any of the history of when the restaurant was opening, what was agreed to or not,
there was absolutely nothing ever agreed to, nor would we ever have agreed to something with another restaurant ever.
Were there any restrictions at the time on the property with the landlord or any of the other establishments that are there?
No, the only restriction was that we don't, have outdoor entertainment that's loud because there are a lot of residences, but there were no menu style or restaurant style restrictions. No. Mm-mm.
And now when the business opened, were you the attorney that filed the paperwork for it?
I most certainly was. Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm just a little bit unsure how to proceed, just because I've receive notification from these other establishments.
Quite honestly, I mean, with all deference to your decision making, it's a doing business as, it's a perfunctory request simply to amend the record. It has nothing to do with the concept. If I change the name, it's simply what they're going to be called. I could change their menu tomorrow and not have to come before the board. So it's not about that. It's just it's really a record keeping aspect, so that if somebody has an issue, that they're able to go to the town clerk under the name of whatever it may be, doing business as the spot, doing business as TWK, and determine who is the actual owner. That's the sole purpose for this.
And as far as you know, there's no other agreement with any other parties regarding the type of restaurant food served there.
To the best of my knowledge, I have never created anything in writing for them with regard to that, but notwithstanding, the DBA has nothing to do with that at all. Nothing. I don't understand why somebody would have complained about a change in business name. I mean, it would have been a private restriction nonetheless, but no, I have no familiarity with any such restriction.
Okay. Questions from the board?
So my view is if there is such a restriction with the landlord approving the change in DBA wouldn't change that. Is that correct? So if somebody were able to produce such an agreement or contract, us taking this action now wouldn't change that?
Exactly right. So the doing business is simply a change in name. The concept change, to the extent, which I believe there is not, but to the extent there were to be any use restriction, you are 100% correct. This change in name would have no impact on that. We would be limited. We would be bound by whatever contract was signed. However, I don't believe there is any.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, no.
Okay.
So should I make a motion that we approve the name change by TWK to change its name to The Spot Winchester as submitted?
Second.
All in favor, I'll take a roll call vote. Mariano,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes?
and yes for me. Thank you very much for hanging on and waiting around for us, Ms. Mann, and let us know if there's anything else that we need to do on our end.
Well, certainly. Thank you and be well. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I think that takes care of anyone else that is a guest here. Lisa, I don't know if you wanted to start up with your report.
Yes,
packet.
yeah. Let's just jump into the two reclassifications. So the first one is in the DPW. It's the S27 principal clerk position. So in accordance with section 4-2B of the town charter, I've made the following reclassification appointment in the Department of Public Works to Maureen Oliver, Winchester, Mass, to an S27 principal clerk, respectfully requesting to waive the 15-day period.
Susan, you're muted.
So I move that we waive the customary 15-day waiting period for the reclassification appointment of Maureen Oliver to S27 principal clerk.
Second.
All in favor, Mariano,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes for me. It's unanimous, 4-0.
The second one is the building clerk, so the building department is S25 clerk. So in accordance with section 4-2B of the town charter, I've made the following reclassification appointment in the building department to Athena Byford, Winchester, Mass, to an S25 senior clerk position, also requesting to waive the 15-day waiting period.
I move that we waive the customary 15-day waiting period for the reclassification appointment of Athena Byford to S25 senior clerk.
Second,
All in favor, Mariano,
Yes.
Jackie,
yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes for me, and motion carries unanimously 4-0.
Moving on to other updates, starting with the caseload, 71 cases with 33 active cases and 2 deceased. Nursing homes are really a primary concern right now and have been sort of a topic of discussion among state officials as to what to do. Representative Day informed us earlier today that the Department of Public Health is now going to require testing and conduct in-person inspections of long-term nursing care facilities after we made a series of requests last week. So that's good news that we're all kind of pushing in that direction. And they're also going to increase more staff supports that they announced today. They're going to conduct baseline inspections of all facilities starting next week. They're going to have scores red, yellow, and green, and then they're going to do follow-ups as necessary. And then funding assistance will be, to a certain extent, contingent on those scores. So our Board of Health director has been working very diligently with our nursing and long-term care facilities on making sure that they're aware of the resources that are needed. But I think one of the things that we found is that the response has been inconsistent. So, some do more than others, and it's a lot of work when things are kind of done inconsistently. So having this response from the state is very welcome news for what we're facing. So looking at the data from 2 weeks ago, we were at 35 cases with 14 active. So the cases have doubled in the last 2 weeks, which is actually a much slower rate than our surrounding communities, which we've seen increase quite a bit. And we can certainly debate the number of factors regarding that, but I will say that we obviously want to continue to see that number be as low as possible and do everything we can, given that 56% of cases, and that keeps growing every time we get reports, are in nursing facilities. So again, that remains our primary concern, but it's really a reflection too of what happens in the wider community. So if there's community spread, it's asymptomatic, and then it gets into a nursing home, that's where we're really concerned. So we just want to remind folks that even if you don't necessarily see any impacts to yourself, we as a community know that community spread can happen to our nursing facilities, can happen to our most vulnerable. So we're going to continue to do everything that we can to keep folks safe. And we can talk about some of those measures under the state of emergency. But before we do, I just want to talk about a few other things the town is doing. So we started issuing road permits last week. So Eversource and some other projects have started construction in the road. Our rec director, the new one starts on Friday. So I've already been meeting with him on the rec budget that we've sort of discussed of sort of what needs to happen when programs aren't going to be the same as they were this past year. From a remote town meeting perspective, Senator Lewis said the legislation should be happening sometime this week. So I will let you guys know if that passes, and then we can kind of discuss if that's an option. The warrant has closed as of Friday for town meeting. So we're just working on putting that together, and we'll bring that before the board in another draft form soon. And I think the big news today was that there wasn't any news on extending the May 4th advisory yet, but at least the governor did acknowledge that he's going to give further guidance on the stay-at-home advisory and non-essential business advisory. I informed the staff today at our Monday all staff meeting that town buildings will not be reopening on May 4th, no matter what the governor says. So we're going to be working on a phased plan for gradually opening up public services and public buildings to the public. But there's a lot of work that we need to do in terms of ensuring continued safe social distancing. It might include some physical improvements. It might include policy changes. It might include hours and so on. So we're working on that plan right now. And I think that
Can I just mention one thing? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I don't ever want to interrupt your report, but just so everybody's aware, I'm sure Mike is, that, and you might have noticed this, Ms. Wong, that the SJC, the Supreme Judicial Court today, extended the court closure other than for emergency business to June 1st.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention, so that there's a parallel there if you are looking for one with respect to access to public buildings.
Great. No, I appreciate that. And I'm sure when they open up on June 1st, it's not going to be a free for all either. I'm sure they'll put some procedures in place as well. So we're kind of doing the same thing. Is we're not sure what that initial date will be. It might be June 1st. It might be another date. I think once we start, we've started inventorying sort of the needs of different departments. And once we kind of collectively look at it, the costs and how quickly we can implement it. We're also kind of still at hopefully the tail end of the surge. So we're still awaiting more information before we make a decision. Okay, so that's the extent of my updates right now. I don't know if we want to move into a discussion about the state of emergency.
I don't see anyone here from the audience, but if there is anybody that wants to speak to something that's not on the agenda already, this would be the time. Seeing none, then we can go right into business item 1. And I know, Lisa, you've already touched a little bit on the state of emergency, but I had a couple things for the board, but I can wait.
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure if we wanted to discuss the mask
Yes.
issue now, so.
Yeah, let's discuss that. I know that we had received kind of a lot of requests from the on the chamber calls about masks in some of our establishments. So I think the Board of Health is putting together some sort of restriction in that regard. And I don't know if you have any updates, Lisa. Let me see if I can find the.
So the Attorney General just issued something today that basically lends a lot of support to the different initiatives that or different orders or advisories that towns are putting together regarding masks, which is a lot different than the conversation we were having last week. So the Board of Health is considering a so the Board of Health had sort of an advisory before, and they're moving towards a face covering order. And they've been doing a lot of work talking with businesses on signage. And my understanding is that every business they've talked to so far has agreed to put up the signage about requiring masks before going into their place of business. So right now the order that they're looking at is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 122. So related to the declaration of public health emergency, they're asking that all members of the public entering any essential business as defined by Governor Baker's COVID-19 executive orders, including but not limited to grocery and convenience stores, pharmacies, hardware stores, banks, government agencies, liquor, beer, wine stores, and the like, must wear a facial covering such as a fabric mask, scarf, or bandana over their nose and mouth. So it doesn't have to be a surgical mask or an N95 respirator, which we advise to be left for first responders and medical professionals. And then we're asking that all members of the public entering a restaurant for the purposes of picking up food for takeout also must wear a facial covering over their mouth and nose. And then we're asking that all employees of all essential businesses open to the public shall wear a facial covering over their mouth and nose. And that food and goods delivery personnel also wear facial coverings as well when delivering food or goods to the customer if there's a person-to-person exchange. That any resident or member of the general public, including the workforce, entering or exiting a residential or commercial building complex of greater than one person must wear a facial covering, and then that people properly dispose of all gloves and facial coverings, and that each essential business post signage of such. And the emergency order is looking to be in effect this week.
So we will pick that up Thursday morning. I think that the Board of Health was meeting on that, and we'll circulate a draft for us to potentially vote on Thursday as well. But I think they are targeting it to be effective Thursday afternoon. And they're not including any fines to go along with it. So we will enforce the order, but at least at this time, there wasn't the feeling that any sort of fine associated with it would be necessary. So we'll see. The other issue kind of following that for us to talk about probably Thursday, I'm guessing, is in regards to the order on real estate showings that we had voted a couple weeks ago, and to see, coming into the expiration of that order, how we move forward. I know that there's been some conversations between the various realtors that have been involved and how to proceed. I think our goal, was to, at least at that point, have those restrictions in place during this surge period. So we'll have to have a conversation about whether or not to continue those, to change the order, or to keep it in place for an extended period of time. I don't know if there are any comments from the board on any of those issues or questions.
I have a quick question or suggestion, and that is, Lisa, when we, vote on this mask order, it'd be really helpful to have some kind of a press release or something to go out so that we can communicate it quickly.
Yeah, this definitely would be deserving of a reverse 911, email blasts and social media. So just about every possible way we can think about it, we would put it up. I think the signage is really important too, right? So if you're going into one of these businesses and the signs are right there and they can enforce it, then
yeah,
that's really key.
Good.
So I'll send you the background that the Attorney General's guidance on local authority amid COVID-19 was just issued today, answering a lot of questions. So I'm going to send that to everybody.
My comment is, yeah, I'm in favor of requiring the masks at the local level, as well as continuing the restrictions we placed on real estate in-person showings. I think, now is not the time to let up. I know everybody's been through a very hard time with this, with the social distancing, and we are seeing the results of that, positive results of flattening the curve. And I hope that we don't become complacent too early and see a resurgence.
Yeah, just in preparation for Thursday, and I probably could look this up, but is the real estate date that we had before, was it May 4th or was it May 1st?
I believe it was the 4th.
It was May 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of extending that too.
Okay, so we'll put all of those on the agenda for Thursday.
Um, Okay, any other state of emergency related questions or anything that board members would like us to discuss on Thursday in relation to that we haven't already had a conversation about? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on our business agenda, which I think is the budget.
Yeah, so the budget seems to be I seem to be always in budget mode. The primary change from last week is that there's some potential discussion that the cuts may or may not be as bad as we think they're going to be, because 85% of the state aid in Winchester is Chapter 70, which is education aid, and there's some thought that even though the unrestricted government aid might be cut pretty hard, that there'll be some backfilling and support to Chapter 70. I think initially I talked about kind of a 20% reduction in state aid revenues across the board, which would have been several $1 million reduction. If we're looking at maybe like a 5% in Chapter 70 and 15-20% in state aid, then that number is in the it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not in the millions of dollars. So it's a pretty big difference. Obviously, we're just still preparing the budget for worst case scenario. I'm in contact with the finance committee as to some suggestions, but right now it's just a big question mark about revenues, and I'll update you when we know more.
Great, thank you, Lisa. I know that we've been kind of jumping around on the agenda here, but it seems like we might be at the end of it. What do you think?
Yep.
I will just draw the board's attention to a letter that we received as part of our packet from the letter from the Commissioner of Commissioners of Trust Funds in regards to our current status. I know there's been a lot of uneasiness about the market and where the town's investments are. So it was a very well-written and explanatory letter. So I urge you to take a look at that. I think it shows that we are very, very well represented and are, even in the midst of a crisis like this, are holding our own. So are there any other questions or comments from board members or future agenda items or anything that is not on the agenda tonight that anyone wanted to raise?
I have one thing. Sorry, I hate to prolong this, but I'm just very mindful that town meeting, although it's often June, is coming up. And I'm thinking that we need to put forth an extra effort this year to have really good explanatory materials and things that we can put out to town meeting members in advance, so they understand what they're voting on, and that they, we don't have a lot of questions or uneasiness at the last minute. So I just like to, volunteer to help in that effort in any way that I can. Help draft or proofread or whatever. I'm not sure how how that magic gets done for all that big book of motions and background notes, but I think that's going to be extraordinarily important this year. So. Yeah,
and to that point, I saw that the town clerk had circulated a survey of town meeting members in regards to remote participation, remote voting, whether or not to reduce the quorum requirement for town meetings. So there are some things in the works, and as we said, we're trying to really filter down the agenda for town meeting, because it's a little bit unusual for us. We want to make sure that we're representing everybody and not overdoing it as far as subject matter. So thank you, Susan. The other thing that I forgot to mention, Lisa, have we heard anything about the Waterfield Road request that we had from TTAC? I know that Jay was working on that, and maybe we can, for our next meeting, take a look at that. There was some question about whether to put a crosswalk right the bike path on Waterfield Road, and whether or not that was possible, and whether Tool could weigh in on that and give us a recommendation.
Yeah, I'll see if I can have see when Tool can have that recommendation done.
Yeah, I know it came in through Roger Wilson, and hopefully we can address it then. I always mindful that there are professionals that can advise us on those things, because most of my ideas are usually pretty bad. So so we'll see. But if there's nothing else, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Mariano,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and yes, for me, it's unanimous 4-0. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Lisa and WinCam. We will see you Thursday, if not before.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John, for WinCam.
Thank you.
Thank you.